Welcome into another edition of Mavs Latest. I'm Josyah Howard, and before we get anything started today, please subscribe down below. Please leave any comments you got for me as I'm going along with things today. It's Dallas Mavericks every day with me, Josyah Howard, here on Mavs Latest. But let's start here. Um, Anthony Davis, it seems like he might be going through some stuff. He posted on Instagram an emoji with the sad, kind of depressed looking down face and the praying hands. He also the other day posted a man who doesn't care at all was once a man who cared too much. And I just, I hope he's doing all right. I hope, um, whatever he's dealing with, it's something he is able to bounce back from so it doesn't affect not only, his life at home, but also his life on the court as well. I hope he's able to use basketball to help him bounce back. And, hopefully it's not something that's too big of a deal. Everybody goes through things like this, goes through mental health things. So hopefully it's just kind of a mini spat and it's just something he has to work through and get through. And hopefully basketball coming up soon. I know he's recovering from that eye surgery. Uh, but hopefully he can come back soon and bounce back not only physically but mentally. Another thing I wanted to mention when it comes to Anthony Davis is that Zach Lowe in a recent episode of his podcast he brought up that uh, you know Clutch Sports wasn't even really too upset about Anthony Davis going to Dallas in the first place. Anthony Davis and Nico Harrison have been close for a long time, and it does sort of seem like the Mavericks were on their long-term radar anyway. So no, that's another detail here where you know AD could have kind of been stewing in the background here in terms of being traded. And, it just seems like he had been a good soldier this entire time when it's come to the this trade. But I think that is a key piece of this is, not only is he comfortable with this, but his agency was comfortable with this move. Because if you get traded out of the blue, you didn't ask for it, they didn't tell you about it, and you get traded to a team you're not comfortable with, and the leadership involved you don't know and don't understand, that could be an issue. And I could understand that if AD was like, I didn't want to get traded, and yeah, I do like you, Nico. I do know you, but I never wanted to come here. So the fact that that's kind of out there and the ethos that, AD didn't mind, Clutch Sports didn't mind, I think coming into a full season, a full off season of being a Dallas Maverick, I think now Anthony Davis has the stage to show why he's a Hall of Famer, why he's an NBA champion. Um, because that's what the Mavericks need from him in order for them to be the successful team that one analyst thinks this team could be, but we'll get there shortly. One last thing with Anthony Davis, according to TMZ, he's putting his Bel Air mansion up for sale for just about $40 million, $39.9 million, listed at 17,254 square feet. So yeah, if you could spare $40 million in Bel Air, you could own Anthony Davis's house. So yeah, and just before I move on, again, just wanted to put out there, hope AD's doing all right, and hope you could bounce back from whatever you are going through, brother. But next on Mavs latest, I mentioned an NBA analyst, and he says, and that NBA analyst is Tim Legler of ESPN. He joined um, a podcast called the All NBA podcast, and he mentioned the fact that Cooper Flagg one day will make, excuse me, day one impact on this team. He said, I think this is a above 500 team, regardless of how long it takes to get Kyrie back. I think Cooper Flagg does have an immediate impact on their team defensively. I think he's going to get comfortable offensively quickly. Might not be the deep shooting threat early. That might take a little time. But the guy's athletic enough, he's good off the ball, and he's a good enough playmaker that even if he's not scoring, he's going to affect your team. And I think he's a difference maker defensively right away. Um, I agree with a lot of that. And if you've been watching this pod, you know I agree with all that. I think the one key with Cooper Flagg and this team being above 500 is, a lot of what we just talked about with AD, a lot of what he mentioned with Cooper Flagg is the key is they're going to have to be a defensive team, first of all. They're going to have to be disciplined offensively, but they're not going to have to be a high clip offense the way they're versatile on the wings and in the paint with their height and size. Um, if Cooper Flagg can come in and be the defensive player that me and Tim Legger thinks he could be, I think they're golden. I do think defensive, just being a great defensive team and just being good enough offensively, you can be above 500 in the Western Conference with the talent they have. So, again, if you just do what you need to do here, you will be just fine if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You don't put too much offensive responsibility on Cooper Flagg. Yes, naturally, I think he'll average about 20 points per game, but you're not asking him to do much more than that. So, yes, I do think he'll have day one impact, but I do agree it will be defensively. Uh, Kyrie Irving, he joined Kai Sanat on his stream, and he told the streamer that he will be going back to school and he's pretty soon returning to school to get his degree in political science. He also mentioned that he wants to do subjects like psychology and economics because he wants that second degree to provide others with insight and advice on other life experiences as well as education. He says, knowledge is power, y'all. Knowledge is power. And he told reporters leading up to his draft in 2011 that he made a pact with his dad within 5 years to get his degree. And obviously that didn't happen because he ended up going to the Olympics and having long playoff runs with the Cleveland Cavaliers and then getting traded to the Boston Celtics, so on and so forth. And now, where he's recovering with his injury, he felt this was the best time to do it. So, congratulations to Kyrie on trying to get that degree. But to wrap things up with a little Mavs chatter, Marcus Spears, he works for ESPN and Anscaped. He said via "Oh no he didn't" on X. He said, I think for Dallas, y'all heard a lot of negative things. There are probably a lot of stuff they're not saying. There are a lot of stories that I've heard that they're not saying, but ultimately he has to be accountable. He may not have been accountable with his words. But he has been accountable with his body. He made that change. Yeah, he really has been very accountable with his body and that change. But I do think it is important that, some of these untold Luka Doncic stories will add context to why you'd ultimately decided to trade him. And if you have some valid stories and valid reasons of why you traded Luka, and it has, if these quote unquote untold stories are so crazy that they would validate such a crazy trade, then if you're, upper management in Dallas, why wouldn't you want those stories out there? Because if they're just bad enough, they would help you out tremendously. Of like, oh, if he's doing that, then I could see them trading him. I personally don't think any of the stuff probably was that bad to where they couldn't have worked around it to get him to the place he needed to be. There's no way he couldn't have done what he did this offseason with the Mavericks if they didn't just kick him in the behind enough to get him motivated enough. I don't think you needed to trade him to get him. Maybe he wouldn't have lost this much weight, wouldn't have been this shredded this early. But I feel like he would have gotten the kick in the butt at some point that he needed to be motivated enough to put the work in he needed to do. If your front office and your coaching staff just did enough to kick him in the butt to do it. But also, I get you got to eventually motivate yourself too. And maybe a trade is what he needed to motivate himself. We don't know in the end. All we know is he got traded to the Lakers and he's now lost a lot of weight. And eventually, these stories are going to come to the forefront, whether it's in a book by a reporter or a documentary or something. These stories are coming out eventually. I don't know when, but I can't wait to hear all of them. But this has been another Mavs Latest. Please subscribe down below. Please leave any comments you got for me down below.